A strong hold over current affairs is your way to succeed in the UPSC Civil Services examination. Brace yourself and get detailed coverage of relevant news both nationally and internationally. With the monthly current affairs revision program starting from 26th October at 5 p.m. Enroll today and elevate your current affairs knowledge with comprehensive coverage of current affairs compiled through relevant sources such as the Hindu Indian Express, Economic Times, PIB Yojana, and others. Expert support and personalized mentoring. Comprehensive assessment through MCQs and mains-oriented questions.
Hello and welcome to this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. Supreme Court to review 2022 judgment on Prohibition of Benami Property Transactions Act 1988. Supreme Court issued guidelines for effective implementation of Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006. Need for responsible capitalism for large economies highlighted by Union Finance Minister. Parliamentary Standing Committee on Defence to study India's preparedness to deal with the non-kinetic warfare. The Economics of Water, valuing the hydrological cycle as a global common good, report released. Mass bleaching of corals around the world since February 2023 is the most extensive on record, says NOAA. The Supreme Court is set to review its 2022 judgment concerning the Prohibition of Benami Property Transactions Act 1988 after allowing a review petition filed by the Union Government. This review focuses on the case of Union of India versus MS Ganpati Dealcom Private Limited, where certain provisions of the Act were declared unconstitutional. The Prohibition of Benami Property Transactions Act was enacted to prohibit Benami transactions and enable the confiscation of Benami properties. For clarity, a Benami transaction refers to a situation where a property is held by or transferred to one person, but the payment has been made by someone else. Section 3 Clause 2 of the Act was declared unconstitutional that prescribed a jail term for entering into Benami transactions. This provision violates Article 20 Clause 1, that is, protection in respect of conviction for offence, of the Constitution due to its arbitrary nature. Moreover, the judgment emphasized that the law cannot be applied retrospectively. This means authorities cannot initiate or continue criminal prosecution or confiscation proceedings for Benami transactions that occurred before the legislation came into force. The Benami Transactions Prohibition Amendment Act 2016 also lacked any explicit provision allowing its retrospective application, although the Union government had argued that the 2016 Act should be applied retrospectively. Now, let's look at the concerns associated with Benami transactions. These transactions are often viewed as a major tool for holding back money, promoting tax evasion, which results in significant revenue loss for the government. Additionally, they distort the real estate market by artificially inflating property prices. Furthermore, such fraudulent assets diversion make tracing ownership difficult, undermining the integrity of the financial system. As the Supreme Court reviews its 2022 ruling, the outcome will likely have significant implications for the future of the Prohibition of Benami Property Transactions Act and the fight against black money in India. In a significant ruling, the Supreme Court has issued new guidelines to ensure the effective implementation of the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act of 2006. This came during the case of Society for Enlightenment and Voluntary Action versus Union of India, where the court emphasized that the PCMA should not be undermined by personal laws or traditions. So what exactly did the Supreme Court highlight? The court directed authorities to focus on preventing child marriages and protecting minors while using penalties against offenders only as a last resort. Furthermore, it underlined the need to address root causes of child marriage such as poverty, gender inequality, lack of education, and deep-rooted cultural norms. The court also made an important observation: child marriages violate the right of individuals to freely choose their life partners. As a step forward, the court urged Parliament to consider banning child betrothals altogether by amending the PCMA. Now, let's take a look at the key provisions in the Supreme Court's guidelines. For legal enforcement, all state governments and union territories must appoint child marriage prevention officers. Additionally, a specialized police unit and state special child marriage prohibition unit are to be established. In terms of judicial measures, magistrates will be empowered to take suo motu action and issue preventive injunctions. The court also encouraged exploring the establishment of special fast-track courts to deal with child marriage cases. On a broader scale, the guidelines also encourage the adoption of a child marriage free village initiative modeled after the Open Defecation Free Village campaign. There's also a push for a technology-driven monitoring system to track the daily attendance of school-going girls up to the 12th grade, ensuring that education plays a key role in reducing child marriages. Now for a quick overview of the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006. This law replaced the Child Marriage Restraint Act of 1929, also known as the Sharda Act. According to the PCMA, a child is defined as a male under 21 years and a female under 18 years of age. Notably, the Prohibition of Child Marriage Amendment Bill 2021 aims to raise the minimum age for females to 21 years, following the recommendations of the Jaya Jaitley Committee. Let's not forget the statistics. According to NFHS 5, 23% of women and 17.7% of boys between the ages of 20 and 24 were married before they turned 18. Additionally, UNICEF data reveals that more than half of the girls and women who were married as children reside in just 5 states: Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal, Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh, with Uttar Pradesh being the largest contributor.
At the Tech Leaders Roundtable in Mexico, India's Union Finance Minister emphasized the pressing need for responsible capitalism in large economies. She highlighted that the challenge for these nations isn't just to grow, but to ensure that growth is inclusive, reducing inequality and creating opportunities for all. But what is responsible capitalism? It's an economic approach that integrates ethical values into business practices. Unlike traditional capitalism, which prioritizes shareholder profits, responsible capitalism focuses on balancing profit with social responsibility. Businesses are expected to contribute to societal well-being, fairness, and environmental sustainability, ensuring that economic gains do not come at the expense of people or the planet. The need for responsible capitalism has never been greater. It addresses critical global challenges such as inequality, exclusion, and environmental degradation. As companies and governments grapple with sustainability, responsible capitalism offers a way forward, promoting long-term viability rather than short-term gains. It also helps businesses adapt to disruptions caused by technology, including artificial intelligence, by fostering a more resilient, socially conscious approach. At the core of responsible capitalism is ethical governance and stakeholder capitalism, which ensures that all stakeholders, not just shareholders, are treated fairly, and that business decisions align with legal and moral standards. India has already made significant strides towards promoting responsible capitalism. Corporate social responsibility is mandated under Section 135 of the Companies Act 2013, requiring businesses to contribute to social welfare. Environmental regulations like the Plastic Waste Management Rules and BS6 emission norms for vehicles are pushing for greater sustainability. Labor reforms, including the Code on Wages and the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code of 2020, are improving fairness in the workforce. In the financial sector, the RBI's priority sector lending norms and SEBI's green bond guidelines are paving the way for more ethical investment practices. As global economies evolve, the shift toward responsible capitalism is crucial. It's not just about economic growth, but about ensuring that growth benefits everyone and sustains for our future. In our next news, the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Defence is set to study India's preparedness to deal with the evolving concept of non-kinetic warfare, a form of conflict that is becoming increasingly relevant in today's world. The recent pager blasts in Lebanon, along with tactics witnessed in the Russia-Ukraine and Israel-Palestine conflicts, highlights the growing significance of this type of warfare. But what exactly is non-kinetic or hybrid warfare? Unlike traditional military engagements, which rely on physical destruction of targets like tanks and aircraft, non-kinetic warfare uses advanced technologies such as electronic warfare, cyber attacks, information and psychological warfare, and even economic disruptions. These methods can be more deadly and decisive than traditional battles. Victory may be achieved before a single bullet is fired. For example, a massive cyber or malware attack could cripple critical infrastructure like power grids or hospitals. Non-kinetic warfare also involves non-military stakeholders, and in today's hyper-connected world, threats to national security have expanded beyond the battlefield. Emerging threats demand a heightened readiness for non-kinetic warfare. India faces challenges from hostile neighbors like Pakistan and China. China's three warfares doctrine, employing psychological, political, and legal tactics, has become a core part of its geopolitical strategy. Additionally, non-state actors like Hezbollah have increasingly used these methods, and internal threats such as Naxal insurgency in central India further underscore the need for preparedness. New technologies, including artificial intelligence, also pose significant risks. India is taking steps to address these challenges. The Defense Research and Development Organization is working on advanced weapons like the Directionally Unrestricted Ray Gun Array or Durga 2 project. Structural reforms include the appointment of a Chief of Defense Staff and the creation of the Defense AI Project Agency and Defense AI Council, aimed at integrating AI into national defense. India is also forging international partnerships such as General Security of Military Information Agreement with the US to enhance its non-kinetic capabilities. Efforts to boost defense indigenization and develop homegrown technologies are also gaining momentum. In our next news, we delve into the findings of the Economics of Water, valuing the hydrological cycle as a global common good, released by the Global Commission on the Economics of Water, or GCEW. This groundbreaking report calls for managing the hydrological cycle as a global common good and provides key recommendations to ensure water security, food availability, and human dignity worldwide. But why is it crucial to govern the water cycle as a shared global resource? The answer lies in the interdependence of communities, countries, and regions. Local and transboundary water systems are deeply interconnected, making cooperation essential. However, traditional water governance has neglected key economic drivers. For instance, most policies focus on blue water found in rivers, lakes, and aquifers, while overlooking green water stored as soil moisture in vegetation, which is vital for agriculture. The disruption of the planet's natural capital through climate change and biodiversity loss is also intrinsically tied to the destabilization of the water cycle. The report warns that failure to manage these systems equitably could have dire consequences. Now to the report's findings. High population density areas like northwestern India are especially vulnerable to water-related challenges. Shockingly, the poorest 10% of the global population relies on over 70% of their annual precipitation from land-based sources. Economic losses, particularly in lower middle-income countries like India, are significant, estimated at around 14% of GDP due to climate impacts, water scarcity, and inadequate access to sanitation. If current trends continue, the decline in water storage could severely impact irrigation, leading to a staggering 23% reduction in global cereal production. So what does the GCEW recommend? The report calls for governing the hydrological cycle as a global common good, linking water flows to all 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It advocates for shaping markets through mission-oriented innovations to transform economies, from launching a new revolution in food systems to creating a circular water economy. A crucial step will be forging strong public-private partnerships and improving financial resources to support water initiatives. The report also proposes a global water pact to set clear, measurable goals for stabilizing the hydrological cycle and safeguarding water resources.
In an alarming update, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has revealed that the ongoing mass coral bleaching event, which began in February 2023, is now the most extensive on record. It has surpassed previous records by more than 11% in about half the time. To put things into perspective, this current bleaching has affected a staggering 77% of the world's coral reef areas, spanning oceans from the Atlantic to the Pacific and the Indian Oceans to bleaching level heat stress as climate change fuels record and near record ocean temperatures across the world. But what exactly is coral bleaching? Corals have a symbiotic relationship with microscopic algae known as zooxanthellae, which live in their tissues. Coral bleaching is defined as the process in which corals expel their symbiotic algae due to environmental stressors like changes in temperature, light, or nutrients. The current bleaching event, which was declared by NOAA's Coral Reef Authority in April 2024, marks the fourth such event in history. The first recorded bleaching event was in 1998, causing a loss of 8% of the world's corals. Since then, approximately 14% of the world's remaining corals were lost in two previous global bleaching events between 2010 and 2017. The impacts of coral bleaching extend far beyond the ecological realm. On an ecological level, coral bleaching leads to reduced biodiversity and disrupts the marine food chain. On a socio-economic level, it causes a decline in the fisheries sector and also reduces tourism. So what's being done to combat this? In India, coral species are listed under Schedule 1 of the Indian Wildlife Protection Act 1972, providing them the highest level of legal protection. Initiatives like the Coastal Regulation Zone Notification 2019 and the Integrated Island Management Plan prohibits developmental activities and disposal of waste in the fragile coastal ecosystems. Moreover, technological solutions such as the use of biorock in the Gulf of Kutch are also being employed to help coral recovery. Globally, efforts are being made too. Initiatives like the Coral Research and Development Accelerator Platform under the G20 and the International Coral Reef Initiative, of which India is a member, are key to preserving and restoring these vital ecosystems.
In today's Place in News, we'll be discussing Malawi with its capital Lilongwe. Recently, President of India paid visit to Malawi. Let's talk about its political features. It is a landlocked country in southeastern Africa and is surrounded by Mozambique in the east and the south, Zambia in the west, and Tanzania in the north. In terms of its geographical features, it occupies a narrow, curving strip of land along the East African Rift Valley. Its major lakes are Lake Malawi, and major rivers are Rukuru, Dwangwa, Lilongwe, Bua, etc. Its highest peak is Sapetwa Peak.
As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. Recently, Supreme Court has observed that courts must apply principle of preponderance of probability in place of a test of proof beyond reasonable doubt in motor accident claim cases. Preponderance of probabilities is a legal standard used in civil cases in various countries. Recently, a redesigned statue of Lady Justice was unveiled by the Supreme Court of India. Traditional statue, first constructed in 1872 in Calcutta High Court, had its origin in Green and Roman iconography. The new Lady Justice statue has an unimpeded vision, unlike traditional blindfolded statue that signified impartiality of vision. The new one represents that law is not blind and sees everyone equally. Recently, 149th Assembly of Inter-Parliamentary Union concluded. Inter-Parliamentary Union is a global organization of national parliaments which began in 1889. It facilitates parliamentary diplomacy and empower parliaments and parliamentarians to promote peace, democracy, and sustainable development around the world. A report titled On Track or Off Course, Assessing Progress Towards the 30 by 30 target in the ocean, showed that the world will not achieve pledges of 30 by 30 due to blue washing. 30 by 30 target is a global initiative to protect 30% of the world's land and ocean by 2030. Farmers in Idukki, Kerala are experiencing the menace of locust infestation. Previously reported in 2020 in Western India, majorly in Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Madhya Pradesh. Locusts are short-horned insects similar to grasshoppers with highly migratory habits. Recently, European Space Agency has launched the Moonlight Lunar Communications and Navigation Services Program. This program's objective is to provide services for more than 400 moon missions planned by space agencies and private companies over the next 2 decades. Russia recently tested readiness of Yar's nuclear missile unit. Yar's missile is a modified version of the Topol-M missile system and can be deployed in silos or mounted on mobile launchers. Recently, TRAI issued a consultation paper on regulatory framework for ground-based broadcasting. Also known as terrestrial broadcasting, it utilizes a variety of advanced technologies such as cloud-based platforms, broadband networks, fiber technology, etc. to transmit and distribute their content efficiently to distribution platform operators. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Knowledge. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solution to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description below.